Hey, everybody. Welcome to a special. This is going to fall under the usual interview shows. This is about CatDad and SuperMom and Chuck being the creator. Of course, I am the creator also. So I'm going to be doing this interview as a journalist, not as myself. So this is about Chuck and his involvement in it. I wanted to sit down and I wanted to ask him about this and do an interview with it. Of course, I'm doing this because I want to help my project, but also Chuck is also a great guy, and I don't think people understand how much of himself he put into this and the working on different projects and how important that is. So I welcome Chuck to the program. Please, Chuck, tell everyone who you are and how they can follow you.
Thanks so much, dude. I'm Chuck Pino, Pineau. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter at ChuckyPin. You can find my Chuck's Raw reviews, which are not great for kids, on Chuck's Raw reviews on YouTube. And you can find my general works on Bonfire Press on Facebook.
Now, this program, of course, is part of our brand new show, The Comic Wire, and we're pretty excited about that and a lot of the stuff. And Chuck's been you can see Chuck's actual raw reviews at the bottom of this very panel. Chuck is very involved in helping other creators. So I think Chuck has touched probably more books in independent comics than I would say some letterers or even pencilers have done. Your credit sheet do you actually have a credit sheet? Have you made yourself a credit sheet?
No, it's a lot of work, and I every time I start to write stuff down, I lose it and then remember something new and forget something old. So no, but it's pretty dang extensive.
Always helps when you're unmute. In regards to that, doing all these books, do you get a copy of every book that you've worked on? Is that part of the contract, or because I know there are some artist friends who say they don't even get a copy of what they worked on?
That's part of my contract. I actually tell them when they hire me, part of my contract is I want a copy of everything that I get. I think there are probably a couple things that I haven't necessarily gotten a copy of, especially if I just do a quick proofing of it or whatever. So I haven't been as forceful on those. So, but for the most part, I have a copy of pretty much everything with my name on it.
And one final question before we get into the CatDad and how you got to be involved with that. As far as being an editor and a proofreader, you go beyond that because we really haven't talked about it. You're a writer as well. So yeah. As a writer, what are your future projects coming out this year for just you? And what are you working on?
Wow. Okay. So there's a fair amount actually. Belial is a very important project to me. So Belial is a project that I'm currently working on issue 2 so that we can get that out by the end of the year. I've got I haven't spoken to you yet, but my wife came to me and she's like, I want to do this piece for the Advocator. And I'm like, okay. And so I was sitting down with in one of the indie comic groups that I helped to moderate, a woman was in there and she was like, I'm really trying to get credits, but it's so hard because writers don't necessarily just want to work with you, and if you don't have anything published. And so I told her, I said, well, let me see some of your stuff. And it had this kind of cool cartoony look to it. And I was like, you know what? I could do a four-pager and we could have you in an anthology if you're interested. And she was like, okay. And so her and I are working on something secret because I didn't want Wendy to be the only one in the Advocator. So I'm going to try to get a piece in there. So I got Belial, I got the Advocator piece. I've got, of course, Travis Gibb is making that amazing anthology, Cthulhu Invades Oz. And I have 2 4-page stories in there with Kyron Silva and Aaron Ellsworth that I'm very excited about. That one's coming around beautifully. It looks so good, and it's going to be really awesome. And then, of course, Eric Cockrell and myself have Essence House, which is on its we We've launched 9 episodes so far, and the 10th episode is coming to Patreon this coming Wednesday. So super excited. That will be our season 1 finale. We're going out with a big bang, and we're already starting to get ramped up for season 2.
How many seasons do you guys have planned?
So right now we have 2 seasons planned. Because the idea is that when we're done 2 seasons, that will be a full novel, a full realized story that we can then turn into a novel and put it on our tables. If people like it and if it's deserving of more seasons, we have ideas and we will start batting them around. But right now, we're just aiming for 2. It's really just going to depend on public persona and how they kind of take it and how much they enjoy it.
I almost got killed there by my son, or he got killed, but he almost not.
I know, right? I was like, uh-oh, it's my time to vamp a little bit.
Yeah. It's about to get crazy. Here he comes. Hey, relax. You want to say hi to everybody?
Hey, dude, how's it going, buddy?
Say hi to Chuck. Say hello.
Hey, buddy, how you been?
Hey, say hello. Like a big boy, say hello. He's getting shy. Say hi. Now he's shy. I can never get him to shut up, and now he's shy. Now the dog's going crazy. So tell me, wow, he's going crazy. How did you get involved with the Advocator? I mean, not the Advocator, CatDad and SuperMom.
So, man, I go all the way back. I'm OG CatDad and SuperMom. So my very first editing gig was your book. Sorry, was Rob Anderson's book, Monsters, and They Call Us Monsters. And while we were working for that, you, for some odd reason, were impressed with my work and appreciative of it, and you were so supportive. And you said, "Hey, man, I got this kid's book. It's done. It just needs a quick proofing. Would you mind doing that?" And I said, "Yeah, okay." So I got to go over it and proofed it. And so when that book came out, that was the official. Even though I'd worked on Monsters first, Jax was the official first book that I ever held with my name on it. So Jax the Anderson means so much to me, and that franchise means so much to me because it was the first book I ever had with my name on it. So when it was time, when we decided, when you decided, hey, we're going to do CatDad and SuperMom, I was like, yeah, I'm on board 100%. So excited for that franchise. And even there was a time when we were going to do, and it may still come up, I hope I can mention this, we were going to do a coloring book.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you if you remembered about that.
I not only remember it, I still have my script for it.
Go ahead, tell me about that.
I finished a little. I as soon as you said it, I did you said, "Hey, we're now accepting scripts," and I was like, "Okay." And I right there did a script with me and I think at the time my daughter was like 6 or 7, and now she's 10. So it was a while ago. I told you I'm OG. Yeah, we had that. I had that done and never got any art to it, but I still have the script in my files. And then when CatDad and SuperMom came along, I gladly jumped on board. Like I said, it's got a special place in my heart. And so I was there all the way through. We did a lot of this project more than any other. We did a lot more drafts and versions of to get it just right. And I remember I'd be like, okay, this is the best version of this draft. And we would talk about it. And then you'd be like, I'm not happy. And I'm like, I get it. Like if this was what you wanted to do, all right, but I get it. And you weren't happy. And it wasn't like you were petulant. Like you weren't this child who was like, it's not good enough. You just weren't satisfied. And I could understand. And then when you came with that final draft, everyone knew like that was it. This is the draft. This is perfect. This is what we were fighting for and holding out for the whole time. And no one fought about it because we always knew we could do better and that there was a better version of this. And I believe that that last draft was it.
And it's funny because that was one of the few times I had delayed the project, because at a certain point I had started it and told Raheel, we're ready to go. And I said, we just got to get a script. And then I was honest with them. I'm like, I don't have it right now. I was like, it's not there. It's in my head. And that's a lot of times as a writer, you have it cooking in your head. And most of the stories lined up the same way. The bigger changes always came down to the dialogue and the flow of the story, getting to know the characters, getting to understand them. Because when we had done Jax the Anderson, those two characters were originally throwaway characters. They were never supposed to leave that one story, because Jack was going to wind up going to interact with real people at a Comic-Con. That coloring book was going to be Con Kids. We had a site for it. It was going to be this big, exciting thing. And then hurricanes, earthquakes, real life, all this stuff started to get involved. It began to torque down. And I remember there was a point where we were this close to getting New York Comic-Con to allow us to use them as a backdrop.
Yes.
We were that close. Like, all we had to do was show them concept art, and we just couldn't get it. The people had kind of fallen apart, couldn't deliver it. And I remember telling Chuck that day, it was one of the most upset days I'd been as a creator. I'm like, we were this close to making something that everyone would have talked about, because they were even talking about maybe bringing it on as a book that they would have sold in their store at the shop. And now, years later, someone's already done more kids related stuff, and that door is closed. And it'll always be, and like you said, I still want to do it. I think that if we can get CatDad where we want it to be as a brand, we can use that to do what we always wanted to do and invite people back. I think when I tried to do it, it was a different time too. Kids' books weren't being pushed like they are now. I am happy to say that a lot of creators are starting to actually get their own kid books out there. So let me ask you a question. Do you have any plans of going out on your own and making your own book?
You mean like my own kids' book?
Yeah, have you ever thought about like going out and making your own kids' book?
So honestly, that little 4-pager I was telling you about for the Advocator, one thing what I love about especially short form is that I get to stretch creative muscles and I get to do things that I normally wouldn't do. So like, if you read my script for the Oz book, it's very horror, and I'm not a horror guy. But I really went into the psychological horror and really had some fun with that. And so I love using those 4-pagers to really kind of stretch creative muscles and make me do things that I normally wouldn't do. And I can do them in more condensed versions, which means that I don't overstress myself on doing something new and different. So with this little Advocator piece, 2 things I haven't been able to do yet. I haven't done fantasy, which is my bread and butter. Like, fantasy is what I grew up on. Fantasy is my stuff. Like, that's what I really feel I'm best at. So I wanted to do a real true fantasy, and I hadn't done anything for kids. And so I thought, oh my gosh, I have this perfect kids fantasy or idea that has been brewing in my head for like 20 years. The characters all realized and together. And so that's what I'm working on right now, is a fun little 4-page kid story, and we'll see if people like it and it turns into something bigger.
And that's the whole thing. Like, people have actually asked me, Dave Brown, who did the original art, he wound up making his own family book. And I remember someone asking me, well, are you upset that he took your idea? And I'm like, what was my idea? Is he writing about Jax? Is he doing something with my characters? And I knew what he was doing. It was about his family. And they were like, no, but he worked with you and he went out and did his own kids book. And I'm like, why do I have a right to tell anyone what to do? If anything, I inspired another creator to create something for children, and we need children readers because they grow up to be adult readers. I don't understand why everyone has to always try to make something negative about things in that regard. Us creators do not need to compete with each other. We need to support each other. Look at this. I want Chuck to write a kid's book. Does it mean I want him to leave CatDad and SuperMom? No, I hope he would always have time for that project. So now you want to break down the story. Everyone's heard me talk about the story to death. Do you want to tell the people about the story?
No. Wouldn't that be hilarious?
Thanks for coming in.
Right? It's been a great show. Thank you so much. Yeah, no, absolutely. You know what? I really liked this story a lot because a lot of times it's just like bullying is bad, and usually it's somebody bullies or is bullied, and then we get to see either the side of the person who's the bully learning, or the person who is bullied having to kind of stand up and deal with it. And this was a very different take on it, and I was attracted to that right away, because Jax is not bullied in this story, nor is he the bully. He's a witness, and he recognizes, or ends up recognizing, that he has a fundamental duty as a witness to stand up for other people. And that was a really neat take. I've never seen it done quite like that. Of course, you have Ella Fart, who is such an off-the-wall, crazy, fun idea. An elephant who has Green Lantern powers, only she uses farts instead of green. Like, that's such a bongo idea, but...
And we did leave the farts green specifically as a nod to Green Lantern.
Yep. And I mean, it all made sense. It was so much fun. But yeah, it was just so kind of off the wall and such a different take on the bullying story that we just haven't seen before. So nothing about it feels like we've seen it before. Because, I mean, we've all seen the bullying stories before. I remember as a kid, Mr. T had these Christian kids books that I used to read and loved. And they were about they had all these different subjects, and one of them was bullying. And it was like, oh, that's cool, but I've read that before. Like, I've seen that story before. It's just got Mr. T in it. Cool. But this is completely unlike anything I've read or seen.
I've never told this story, and it's not because it's a shameful one. It's just until you just said that, I've never thought about to talk about it. And I mean in years. I don't know if I've never ever told another human being this. That's how much it's just in the back of my mind. I'm a hyper person. Chuck knows that. He's tabled with me. I don't stop moving. I don't sleep well. I wake up after 5 or 6 hours. Even now with a bad back and being exhausted, I can't sleep through the night. I'm up in the middle of the night most days. So as a kid, it was even worse. I'd sleep like 4 or 5 hours and have to start getting up. And I could only get up when there was television, because I'm so old that the television used to go off at night. There used to be bars on the screen, kids, bars, or the American flag. That was the choices you had. They played the Star Spangled Banner. So you didn't get anything until about 5 in the morning. And I know this because I used to wake up at 5 in the morning. And at 5 in the morning, because they forced me to go to sleep at 9 o'clock at night, and I'd be asleep by 10. That's 7 hours. That was more than enough for me. And so it's at 5 in the morning, there used to be this claymation religious show that would teach these morals. And it was the craziest stuff. And I sat there and I watched every episode. I actually enjoyed it. At the time, I understood it was religious, but I didn't understand how pandering it was. I had seen it at one point years later. And someone had mentioned it online. What was that?
Was that Davy and Goliath or whatever?
Yes. Yeah. So, and someone had shown it, and I meant to share it, and I never did, and I forgot about it until this very moment. And I really enjoyed it as a kid on the level of they were teaching me how to act like, because everyone considers me a big and scary person, and everyone expects me to be just full of anger, and that's really not true. I think of myself more as a person who reacts to everyone the way they treat me. If you treat me really cool, you're never going to see an angry side of me unless someone else makes me angry and I'm dealing with it for you. And I've had friends who have come to me and be like, that person's bothering me. Can you help me? And then they've seen me get angry and they're like, wow, you really are scary when you're angry. I've never seen you angry. And that's the reality of the situation. I got a lot of those morals, believe it or not, from watching that claymation thing. It really did teach me as a child. And I've said it many times. And I'm not pro-religion here. I have to stress that. I'm a spiritual person, but I think the kids nowadays aren't going to Catholic school. They're not going to churches. They're not going to synagogues, and they're not learning morals. And they're getting a lot more of the morals from their parents, who I think spend a lot of time parking in handicap spots, throwing things out the window, texting on the phone while driving. And I think parents have kind of forgotten that we're our kids' biggest inspiration. I can't tell you how many times I'm doing something, about to do something wrong, and turn around, there's Jackson. I'm like, I was like, son of a, sir, you will survive cutting me off this day. You thank him. You know? Do you find that to be true, though? Because I know I know you quite well. We've known each other for years now. We talk very often. I find you to be one of the more moral people in independent comics, actually. I think your morals guide you versus profit, and that's a rare thing to say about someone in this day and age in the independent creator market.
Yeah, well, thank you, man. I mean, morals are tough because, especially for me, it means that I have this constant guilt complex of, am I doing the right thing? Or when I know that something's, say behind schedule or whatnot, like, I beat myself up way more than anyone else could possibly beat themselves up over these things, like, or at least way more than you could beat me up over it, because I've already gone over the stuff a million times. So having those morals is difficult and a little, it's difficult. That's probably the best way to say it right now. But, at the end of the day, you need to be able to look in the mirror and say, am I the best version that I can be? Or am I at least attempting to be the best version that I can be of me? And I find that a lot of people, we're getting a fairly selfish world. And, we have, and I'm not blaming it on anything in particular, but like, we have these phones in front of us and they are a reflection of us. And we get to be very narcissistic and enjoy exactly what we want to enjoy when we want to enjoy. It's like that 5 a.m. thing, man. You and I, we would wake up at 5 a.m. and the cartoons, let's be honest, were not awesome. They were not the best cartoons you were going to watch that day. They were not Transformers. They were not G.I. Joe. They weren't any of that. But they were what we had available at the time, so we just shut up and we enjoyed it because it was at least a form of what we wanted. But now you have at your fingertips pretty much everything you want. And so when you don't, we get a little petulant. We can be, I'm loving that word today. We can get a little whiny because I don't have right now at my fingertips. And what we're going through right now is a very good example of that. People are complaining about some very minor inconveniences. I get that there's some difficult points, and I'm not saying this hasn't been tough. It certainly has been. But there's also some stuff sometimes where I'm like, that's a very sad thing to whine about. Like some of the things that we complain about, because it's so, I think we're a lot more selfish now. And I think we really need to step back. We need to think about other people, which is why supporting things like Kickstarter and other people is so important. It's why my work on Chuck's Raw Reviews, you don't see me talking about my books. And when I do when I have mentioned, say, Belial, Welcome to the Void or something, it's not even an advertisement. It's, hey, I'm working on this right now. And maybe like, oh, I was working on Belial and now we're reviewing a book that my letterer worked on or whatever. And so I get to bring it up in that aspect, but it's never support me. That's a different time and a different channel. Chuck's Raw Reviews is about, this is your book. Let's talk about your book. Let's show the world your book. And so it's never about me. I didn't win the award. The channel won the award, and it won the award because we show off really fun stuff and we're passionate about what we love. And that's what it's all about for me.
And I got to say, as a person who tells me that I don't promote myself enough, I think you definitely fall into that own category. But I think it's for guys like us, and stop me if I'm wrong, it's hard to promote ourselves because it's a double-edged sword. First, we don't do it a lot. So when we do it, you have to, and I've even ran things before I post it out there because I don't know how it's going to come out. I'm trying to be genuine. I'm trying to ask for help, but I'm so unfamiliar with asking for help. It's not something I do. I want to help other people. I want to, like when we do the Advocator, I'm not even promoting for myself. I'm promoting for other people. So it's easy. I always talk about, if you go back and look, I barely talk about my project. The one project I talked about a lot was the one where it was a crossover, and I was talking about my good friend Keith Thomas, who we lost. When it's about me and I see this with you, it's like, how do I convince you to do this without feeling pressure? Because I'll be honest, you have access to indie advocates like no one else does. You're an editor. I never question you. You put on anything you want. I've never stopped you, never even asked why it was on there. And you have never tried to take advantage of that. And there are other people who are reporters who had a limited thing that put on things every day about their project, and I had to step in and take away their ability to be a reporter.
I remember you actually got on my butt because I didn't put Welcome to the Void on there. Mm-hmm. He said, why are you, the Kickstarter's up there, why are you not putting it up there? And I'm like, I'm sorry, man, I feel like I'm taking advantage. You're like, no, man, like, it's news like anything else. Everyone else's Kickstarters get to go up there. So does yours. Yep. And so, yeah, man, it's just, we have this platform. And the funny thing about this platform is that we only really use this platform for other people. And so when it comes to using it for ourselves, it feels wrong. It's not. And I don't think it is, but it feels wrong when you're doing it, taking advantage of it. And it feels like you're going to somehow taint the brand of supporting others by asking for support. And so that's why I'll often tell people, I sell this so that you'll then buy this. So I go and I support and I show and I have fun with you guys and I entertain people and I do live shows and I do podcasts and I do all that so that I can entertain you and keep you happy. And hopefully you look and you go, you know what? Chuck's a good dude. Why don't I check out that book? And I don't then have to tell you, buy my book. You're on mute.
Yeah, because Jax is going crazy. As much as I want Jax to be on this program, I don't want him to talk over you and be rude. As he's calling me out, he wants to fight right now. So, yeah, it's exactly. He's it. See, I'm getting hit by foreign objects. Like
time for fisticuffs.
He's trying to instigate a fight. I get abused. I'm telling you, it's daddy abuse.
And you know what's funny? When I went to Florida, that was my one disappointment, was not being able to hang out with Jax.
Yeah, me too. I missed him that weekend.
I got it. I mean, I totally understood it. It was 4 days of us working our buns off. So that would have been tough on me a little bit.
That wasn't why he wasn't there. It was the one rare time his mom had him.
Yeah.
I mean, it was his weekend with his mom. So moving on. Can you pitch the book for someone who doesn't know what it is so they can get a shot at it? Because we're at the 30-minute mark and Jax is about to rip down the set. So go ahead. I'm going to back out and you can tell him while I get beat up, and I'll be right back.
All right, gang. I'm Chuck. You guys know me. We're together right now. I'm gonna sell it to you straight, okay? CatDad and SuperMom. I didn't write it, but I got to be there all along. And there are little pieces of my fingerprint and my DNA in there because I loved it. And anytime I could help to make it better, I did. So my pitch for CatDad and SuperMom is this. If you want a book that teaches your kids, your family, even yourself about the issues of bullying and the issues of allowing bullying to even happen in our society, this is the perfect book. It's fun, it's colorful, it's exciting. And you know what? The one thing we often don't talk too much about is its heart. It's got so much heart. And that moment near the end when CatDad is having a serious talk with Elefart, it's beautiful. It really is a beautiful, poignant moment that you don't often get to see in children's books. And that's what's cool about this. It's not just a children's book. Anyone really can enjoy this. My 10-year-old has enjoyed it, and a lot of times they'd be like, oh, that's a baby book. But they really liked it. It really is the best version of itself and of really any bullying book or anti-bullying book I've ever read before. So my pitch to you guys is this. go check out the book. I think you're going to enjoy it. And if it's not necessarily for you, you absolutely have children in your life, nieces and nephews, grandchildren, the local kids, your library, anybody who would love this book and who would also serve greatly by having read this book. So please pick up a copy, pick up some extra copies for friends and family alike, and let's get that amazing message out there.
And I appreciate my good friend and co-creator in this. And a lot of people have wondered why Chuck became a co-creator if he was an editor. This goes back to editors don't get enough credit. It was him constantly, he was never mean to me, but he always agreed I could do better. And that mattered to me because he saw it and he wasn't just trying to get paid for a job. And he was patient with it. I remember offering to pay him more, and he said, no, just get me the script when you're ready, and we'll take it serious. And he's like, just make what you have to the way you need to. And we put off the book for 6 months, and you're right. There were countless ones you didn't even read. I couldn't even, I would, and I remember the last script was the one I just ripped apart everything else and started with a blank screen and rewrote it word for word and did not try to save anything other than what was in my mind. So
it's funny that you bring that up because I've had books where I've said it's done and they're like, oh, I want to redo it. And you're like, no, this book is done. Like I've had to really get on people like we've done enough work on this. Thing is the best version of itself. We need to just get it out there now. And with CatDad and SuperMom, that just wasn't the case at the time. It was, no, we can do better. Like, I know that we can do better than this. Yeah. And so it just comes down to integrity.
Yep.
And we all just wanted the best out of it that we could. And even Raheel worked very hard to make sure those pages, and even there was some stuff along the way where he said, hey, I'm really excited. Can we add something? I'd really love to show something off. And I loved that about him, that he was excited enough to want to put his fingerprint and DNA in it as well. So, yeah, man, the whole team really took it seriously and really cared a lot.
And when someone does that to me, and that's the same thing I said to Raheel, because at the point, me and Raheel were co-creators in CatDad and SuperMom. Of course, the IP is mine. A lot of what was brought over was already mine, but I wanted anything created to be his. So the narrator is his. That's a character that he did. Certain parts of the book become his, and anything that's based off of this becomes, we're hopefully going to be at Nickelodeon one day. That's an honest goal of me, is to get this on Nickelodeon or a like-minded streaming service or network. And I wanted to, I'm not a greedy person by nature. I'm just not. I always look at money. You can always make more. There's always going to be more money to be made. And when Chuck had put all that effort into it, I went to Raheel and I said, Raheel, we're adding Chuck as a co-creator. He did too much work not to. And to like you said, the ethics of Raheel, he said, that makes sense. That absolutely works. And then Chuck was added, and he is 1/3 of the decision making. We do me and him together run the American branch, and Raheel does the international side of it. So when it comes to story, we all get together, but how we promote it in America, everything I run through Chuck. I don't think I've done anything without your permission, other than the one artist who offered to do a cover for free. And how do you say no to that when it's a good talented artist? You don't. I told him, I'm like, this is coming, and he's like, how much are we paying? I'm like, no, he wants to do it. He's like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah.
And I mean, that kind of stuff, that's just cool. You know what I mean? But even when it happened, it was like, hey, you still came to me and said, hey, how do we want to utilize this?
Yeah.
And so you still asked my advice on how we should utilize it, and we talked about it and stuff. So, yeah, even that, I mean, art is art, so you got more art, and that was cool. And that's not an issue at all. And then it's, well, how are we going to use it? So I still got to be a part of the decision-making process all the way across. So never felt left out. It's always been good.
And that's why, like, especially for this, like, normally people wouldn't bring their editor on. I would for most projects just have the interview with you. But especially here, and I stress this to anyone watching, is that this is part yours. This is not anything that isn't part yours. And I always call you a creator. I don't do the co-creator thing, because you're part of the creators. It's just that simple. And the technical term is co-creator because we all have a stake in it, yes, but we're all the creators behind it. You know, without us, without Rahil's art, it doesn't go anywhere. Without your edits, it doesn't become a better story. And without my story, we don't have the art or anything to edit. It's symbiotic. And that's what comic book is.
Wouldn't you say that co-creator almost feels like you're diminishing their role somewhat?
Yeah.
I felt that way too, because you know, with Belial, I'll say, oh yeah, I'm the creator, and they'll be like, oh, so you did it yourself? And I'm like, no, I'm the creator, and so is my good buddy Sean Barber. You're co-creators. Yeah, but we both created it. Like, I don't feel like there's something about the thing that makes you feel like you did less work. And both of us, all of us who have worked on these projects, we've worked so hard that adding any little thing in there to take away the respect and the hard work that we put into something, it feels counterintuitive. So you're right. I'm not a big fan of the co-creator term. I just prefer to say creator, and we're all the creators of it.
Yep. And even in our little diagram here, it says created by right there because the story was created by me, but the story's by all of us. And that was very important, and I fought for that. I'm like, no, everyone's name goes in that line because every one of us had to do with the story. And like you said, you don't hear, oh, did you see the co-builder out there who co-built the house with me? The co-astronaut who helped me go to space, the co-engineer? No, you're a creator on the book. That's it. A co-creator to me is like the co-producer. It's the person after the fact. Like, we had everything done, and then this guy came along. He shook his ass. He got a lot of money for us on Kickstarter. We made him a co-creator. What does it matter? He's a co-creator. Nothing. It's just a title.
Yeah, right.
But when you say someone's a creator, like, they stop and they start asking questions. Yeah. And, you know, a lot of times people have asked, well, what did Chuck do? And I was like, he helped me create the book. No, but what did he specifically do? He helped me create the book. And what did Rahil do? Like, he's just the artist. I was like, no, he helped me create the book. And that's always going to be my answer to it. And they're like, well, what's your part? I was like, I was the writer. That's the right question, because now you're asking my part, you know. But beyond that, you kids out there, you got to get editors. Chuck's available some days of the week. Sign up for his sheet. It might be a waiting list. So
anything worth having is worth waiting for, people.
Yeah. Except for lunch and dinner. I want to go back to fast. I want to be able to not have to cook everything.
Yeah, right.
My microwave is getting tired, I'm telling you. All right, so that's the end of it. Thank everyone for tuning in. This, of course, is part of the brand new Comic Book Advocates. Stay tuned for us. Me and Chuck are going to be back to explain why the changes and how exciting it is to be part of that. And that's it. Chuck, you get the last word.
Hey, guys, thank you so much for checking us out. You know what? I'm barely going to tell you about me. You know where to find me. You can find me on Twitter at Chucky Pin. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on all those wonderful places. But really, it's not about me. This is about CatDad and SuperMom. Go to Kickstarter now. Check out CatDad and SuperMom. You know what? There's a lot of stuff going on. I get it. Money's not always there. Even $1 helps. But if you can't do that, we would love for you to talk about our amazing book and share it around the your social media cosmos. And that would mean the world to us. Thank you so much. Peace, love, and comics, my friend.